There's still much ado about Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act Amendment relating to statutory delegates. The House of Representatives has stepped down a motion seeking to override President Muhammadu Buhari for failing to assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022, which provides for statutory delegates. A member, Ben Igbakpa, has raised a constitutional point of order to override the President and two-thirds majority of the members' votes on the bill. But presenting the motion at the resumption of the plenary on Tuesday, the Deputy Speaker, Ahmed Wasi, who presided over the session, said a motion cannot be used to override a bill. He insisted that the motion be stepped down and the right procedure be followed. Let's share the story with you.
Determined to remove any form of ambiguity from the Electoral Act, the House convened an emergency sitting in May to amend Section 84, subsection 8 to enable statutory delegates participate in the congresses and conventions of political parties. Weeks after the expiration of the one-month window for presidential assent, opposition member Ben Igbakpa moves that the House overrides President Muhammadu Buhari. Ben Igbakpa describes the absence of formal communication from Mr. President on reasons behind the withholding of assent as an affront on the Parliament. He seeks the invocation of Section 58, subsection 5.
Why I am so interested in this is the complaint out there. You see, if this ninth assembly must be remembered, sir, we should be remembered by two critical bills, the PIB and this Electoral Law Act. And if we leave without putting it in order the way it's supposed to be, then I think we must have not done anything.
But he had barely finished reading his motion when the presiding officer insisted bills are not amended by motions.
What you are supposed to do is possibly to ask the rules, if you are interested, write to the Speaker for a bill, seeking for that to happen, and then we go through the normal procedure as enshrined in our own House standing orders, or motion stepped down by the leader of the House for further legislative action.
Meanwhile, some members say they will vote in support of the motion once it returns to the floor.
If the intention of overriding him is to address that lacuna, that particular defect, that ambiguity in that particular section, be rest assured that Yusuf Gagdi will vote to override Mr. President.
Since 2010 to before this one, statutory delegates were voting. Why was there the need to now expressly state statutory?
To the lawmakers who support the motion, the continued inaction of the president in either assenting or vetoing the bill has left a lacuna in the nation's constitutional democracy. And this, they say, portends danger to the 2023 electoral process. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Ab initio, I think I will blame the National Assembly for this, not Mr. President. Because when you want to put it at the doorstep of Mr. President, that Mr. President did not, remember that this whole process supervised by the National Assembly. It took them time, they checked it, the back and forth, and there was a time the emphasis was on the Section 12, this 84 subsection 12. Yeah. Do you understand? If everybody concentrated on Section 12 and Section 12 went to courts, and Section 12 has gone into the Supreme Court now.
84-12.
Yes, got to the Supreme Court. A lot of people left Section 8. And Section 8 empowers even National Assembly members to vote in their constitution, convention. Both PDP, APC, across the board.
Yeah. So, Ayo, wouldn't you agree with those who have described Nigeria as one huge theater of comedy? I mean, how can a man... I mean, it's the only way you can describe this is just total inefficiency.
Because if you have 360 House of Rep members,
do you understand?
109 senators, over 400 lawmakers, you know, decided on this document, and they forgot Section 8.
What has played out is just pure comedy. All right? So you asked that question. What level of negligence? How do you describe the level of negligence in a House of 360 and the Senate of 109 persons, and that they couldn't, pick out this error? But having said that, the other leg to it is, this is a constitutional matter. So if the members of the National Assembly have had issues with this, out of negligence and all that, but Mr. President also has his part to play. If they came back, realized their mistakes, took a different decision, and communicated to Mr. President, it behoves on the man who is leading us to do what is also constitutionally right. Now, Mr. President was supposed to have acted within 30 days. If he didn't think that the amendment was in order, he had the right to communicate them and say, no, I have my reservations. But in this case, the second leg of the comedy is that the president did not endorse it, neither did he communicate to the National Assembly. All right? So in as much as you want to blame members of the lawmakers, you also want to query why Mr. President has acted the way he did. But again, there's a history to it. All right? The conversations leading up to the Electoral Act itself, how Mr. President felt that the House didn't play game, and all right, and then the governors on their part also felt that the lawmakers were, beginning to act as a stumbling block to their powers and all that stuff. So a lot of intrigues is involved here. Some have said Mr. President has acted the way he did because he wants to take his pound of flesh, or if you like, he wants them to lick their wounds. So this is what we have, playing out. But at the end of the day, it's a constitutional issue. This is about Nigeria, all right? The president has a part to play, and that is to sign it or communicate his reservations to the House. Where that fails, a certain section, I think it's 58.5, empowers members of the National Assembly to override the president. I think that's what is what's at stake here.
The inability to get this section 84, subsection 8 over with, that almost altered the destiny of the political parties, as in during the 2022 primaries.
Well, I think we have to look at it from three perspectives. Number one, I think because of the pact the National Assembly members had with the president to behave during this ninth assembly, they were in a hurry to actually sit down and read in between the lines as per the provision of section 8. So if they were in a hurry, then confirms the belief that if you want to hide anything from a black man, just put it inside the book. If we put it inside the book, you will not read it. If they have been able to read in between, they will know that there is danger. Number two is the fact that they are complaining now because most of them lost their position. They cannot come back. That thing. If they had gained their position, if that thing had favored them, then most of them would have been back and they will say, hey, after all, we are people. But it is about personal thing. So they have lost. The horse already boasted from the stable. So you are now crying over speed milk. Well, if the National Assembly leader is magnanimous enough, they will allow the motion to be taken and the necessary amendment done. But that will be after this. Nobody can do that one now because all the parties have concluded their primaries. Those who have lost have lost. Most of them will not go back to that particular national. I think it's a lesson for our people to think more about the generality of the people than their own position. They were in a hurry to please Mr. President. So if they were in a hurry, if they were not in a hurry, they would have cited these mistakes not time ago and insist that that section has to be obliterated for the interest of democracy. But unfortunately for them, they could not do it. So I think I wish them the best.
The overall interest of the country now,
I
think something should be done so that it will not endanger the 2023 election. Because beyond this clause 8 of the Electoral Amendment Act, we have the old Electoral Act as amended. And it will be catastrophic to go into the 2023 election with the old law.
Absolutely.
So already, this act, you have the BOVA's recognition, the polling units, electronic transmission of results, and what do you have? Some other lofty things. But we can't, because of politics now, to throw away the baby and the bathwater.
Yeah, this is about our electoral system. And the electoral system is guided by laws, all right? And that is why this is not just about negligence on the part of lawmakers. It's about our laws, the laws guiding elections in this country. All right? So, and you have the off-season election, polls coming up and all that. This is a critical segment of our Electoral Act. In spite of this slip, remember that both the lower house and the upper house, that's the House of Reps and the Senate, were in total agreement of what needed to be done. And that is why the bill, after all the deliberations, was sent to Mr. President. So what we need to do here, Ayo, is not to, for political leaders to make this a private issue. It's about the laws governing this country. It's about the laws that help us in our leadership recruitment process. So we need to put those sentiments aside and do what is right. And it's not like the National Assembly leadership is against it, listening to what the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps. He has said that you cannot override Mr. President on this law by motion, that this bill has to be deliberated again. After deliberations, if we have an overwhelming position that the House is convinced about what it has, it stands for, then the issue of override can come in. So it's about the processes. It's not about, completely throwing away the Section 84. Is it 84?
No, 84.8.
84.8. It's not about throwing it away. It's about the processes that would comfortably allow the National Assembly take that decision of overriding Mr. President, if need be. So in this case, what the Deputy Speaker has said is, go back to the standing order, all right? Follow the due process, and then you can come back. And coming back is basically saying this bill has to be deliberated afresh. If we have 2/3 majority and there's concurrence at the level of the Senate, we can then, take up Mr. President and deal with it. Either have him sign it or override him. So it's about the process here.
We seem to have a lot of audience from the United Kingdom today. Kingsley is calling us from UK again. Thank you for joining us, Kingsley.
Hello.
Yes, Kingsley, go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, please, I want to take you guys a bit back from what you guys discussed earlier. I want to know how Dangote refinery will help solve this problem of fuel scarcity, and when the refinery will be ready, at least for Nigeria to start enjoying it before things get worse. That's my question.
Okay. And Sam?
Yeah, from what we have read and heard, we understand that the Dangote refinery will come on stream. It was, I think, later this year.
June this year.
Yeah, this year. But there's been some kind of delay because from what we heard again, there's issues of funding and all that stuff. So hopefully, probably 2023, it will come on stream. But your question, how will this address the challenge that we face? It's about capacity. The Dangote refinery has massive capacity to not just to meet our local demand, but also for export. So if it comes on stream,
it's not even exclusively.
No.
For Nigeria, no.
It's not at all.
It's a business.
It's a business. It has more than enough capacity to satisfy the Nigerian market and make a lot of money. So if we have Dangote, we don't have to go shipping. So even the time it takes us to bring in imports will be totally reduced. And
we don't expect him to crash the prices for us.
No. He wouldn't. He's a businessman.
Because even the NNPC said they will sell for him in Naira. They will sell crude for him in Naira, probably in order to reduce or to curtail the price. But then he also has to look at the operations because the refinery has to be run.
NNPC also, they have a kind of
I think about 20% stake. But let's all not be carried away. The man is a businessman. This has been set up as a venture, structured to make profit. So let nobody walk away with the impression that at the end of the day, the so-called prices will crash and all that.
No.
The man is going to be doing business, at the market price. That's the only way he can pay back his exposures to meet his exposures to the banks and all that. Nobody should think that he got big money from his pocket to run that. Even if he does, the man is not Santa Claus.
First of all, the essence of business is to make profit and to stay afloat.
Absolutely. So we just hope that our local demands will be met sufficiently, and then the convenience of picking or buying fuel from the retail outlets will be without pains.
Hope
I
you
think
did
that's what
justice to
Nigerians
your
are basically
question,
asking
the
for.
caller from the United Kingdom, and back to this. Ipman is saying that no way that they cannot sell less than 180 naira per liter in this current situation. That's the independent petroleum marketers.
Well, I think the onus lies on the PPMC, Petroleum Product Marketing Company, if they have the capacity to enforce this particular decision of selling for 165 naira. Because when people stay on the queue for a long time and they couldn't get it, it's a law of supply and demand. If you cannot make it easier for people to get petrol from the depot and down to the people, are you going to subsidize their thinking? If that subsidy has been, of operations has been effective, there may be no need to move it off from 165 naira to 180 naira. But the PPMC have no capacity to enforce that law because it's a question of law of supply and demand. Yeah, until they do that, we cannot actually, we are in Nigeria, we cannot actually guarantee that it will be 165 naira.
Not just capacity, but the issue of inefficiency all over the place.
Yes.
Do you understand? You promise subsidy, and then you don't have clear standards for measuring how this subsidy thing is implemented, and you have corruption all over the place. Do you understand? So we at the moment we cannot even tell how much corruption that we have in the system, because somebody comes and says, look, I moved 20 trucks to the north, pay me this bridging fee.
Yes.
So you and I are not there when the audit stuff is going to be done. It just basically a repeat of what we had some couple of years ago, where people were just under declaring or over declaring whatever they did, and then making money. That same challenge faces this economy. And by the time we do what is right and open up the system, you'll be shocked at how much resources this country has lost by way of the so-called subsidy.
All right.